What's going on, Sports 2.0 Network? What's going on? It's Colten, Kahler. How we doing? Good Saturday morning to you. It is Saturday, March 19th. We're heading into day two, or round two, rather, of the NCAA tournaments. We got everything for you from the NCAA tournament, MLB free agency, a little football, and a weekend slate for you of games here to watch. But let's get started. It's been a while since we've done a podcast. It's been a while since we've been back here on StreamYard and on the Sports 2.0 network. I miss it a little bit. So we'll start with our round one recap of the NCAA tournament here. For me personally, as you can see, last night was a little stressful. Very stressful. Illinois played arguably the worst game they have all year. One of the worst games I've seen them play, period, against Chattanooga last night in the round one of the NCAA tournament. They were able to survive late. They led for a total of 25 seconds in the game. They did not take the lead until under a minute left in the game. And Coleman Hawkins makes arguably the play of his college career so far with the huge block. And then they're not able to get the jumper at the end from, I believe, Malachi Smith. So just a big win for the Illini and an ugly game. But they say at this time of the year, survive in advance. That's all you got to do is survive in advance. And Illinois did just that. They have a much tougher opponent tomorrow night in Houston. So, we'll start there. I thought Illinois played terrible from the start. They've came out flat like they have all year. I wouldn't say all year, but more recently, they're coming off the loss to Indiana in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. They'd previously beat Iowa to win the regular season or tie with Wisconsin for the regular season Big Ten championship. And you really didn't know what type of Illinois team you were going to get. Last year, obviously they were bounced early as a 1 seed to a very good Loyola Chicago team. And they darn near got bounced by a pretty good Chattanooga team. I think they got off in the wrong start because they had too many fouls early and they tried to go hack-a-shack on Kofi, which it kind of worked because Illinois shot terrible from the free throw line. I believe they only I think Plummer was the only one that made a three-pointer all night. He made 3 of them there in the second half and kind of spurred that comeback for them. And then, some free throws down the stretch. But the Illinois defense really stepped up after kind of being exposed early. And they stepped up late. So that was a big turnaround for them. But, man, Brad Underwood got out-coached last night. Oh, man. Chattanooga was running circles around Illinois. And it just the biggest thing for me that stuck out last night is Whitey didn't play any of the freshmen. We've seen what DeMonte can offer. We know that Plummer is going to get beat defensively. Trent was next to worthless last night, and Trent's my favorite player. It was a bad night for Illinois, but good teams find a way to win, and they did that. So, you can't knock Illinois too much because they were able to get the win. But boy, that was a very disappointing performance to see from Illinois last night. But there's a lot of other good games. Obviously, we had the upset of St. Peter's over Kentucky, the 2-15 matchup there on Thursday. Kentucky, a lot of room for concern there after losing that one to St. Peter's. They battled and they pulled out the upset, and so they get Murray State after they beat San Francisco. And I believe San Francisco's head coach just took the job at Florida, so a quick turnaround for him in that one. But the big upset there, and we'll get a game today at 7:45? Yeah, 7:45. Murray State and St. Peter's. If you would have asked me before Thursday where St. Peter's was, I would have had no idea. I had to look it up. Kind of an embarrassing loss for Kentucky. One that busted a lot of brackets. Speaking of which, there are no perfect brackets left. Last night, after the Iowa State win over, who did they beat? LSU. Yes, LSU. They had the 5-point win over LSU. That was the last one there. Wisconsin. Colgate almost got them last night. That was a interesting game to watch. I was hoping. I had the perfect toothpaste tweet ready to go. and just Wisconsin battled back late in front of their home crowd. How does that happen? How does Wisconsin get put in Milwaukee? It's what, probably an hour 15, maybe hour and a half drive from Madison to Milwaukee. How does Wisconsin get that good of a draw and they play in front of their home fans? I mean, it was basically a home game last night for Wisconsin, and they struggled with Colgate, and Colgate got cold down the stretch. I don't know if they had maybe a couple baskets in the last 10 minutes, but that one looked like it was going to be another major upset. But the Big Ten, a lot of scares last night. Michigan State barely gets by Davidson. Illinois barely squeaks by. The St. Peter's cover today. Trevor, what's the line on that one? I don't know off the top of my head. But do they cover today? No, I think that maybe they were a one-hit wonder a little bit. I like Murray State. They're going to be in the Valley next year, so I'll be able to watch them up close and personal for the next few years while I'm still in college here. But I'm a big Racers fan now because you like to see the new teams coming in. It didn't bother me one bit to see Loyola Chicago lose, not one bit. So, I was very happy with that. The spread right now is 8.5, according to CBS. Could they cover 8.5? Maybe. That's actually kind of small. They might be able to cover that, but I think Murray State, they'll probably have a double-digit win today. I like them to cover that one, but it's been a wild ride. We've had a few upsets. Obviously, that one. What else did we have? We had the Richmond. Iowa came out flat, and you've seen how in the last 2 years, the Big Ten champion has really struggled here early in the tournament. Illinois with that second round loss, and it takes a lot out of you. The Big Ten tournament takes a lot out of you, especially last year. So it's for Iowa, they complain about the new balls, which why would the Ncaa bring out new basketballs? I don't really know. Kind of ridiculous in my opinion. You can tell the color is different. They look a little firmer to me from TV and from the pictures I've seen, but a lot of people don't like them, and I don't know why you would play with a different ball now than you have, for the entire season, but I don't make the decision. It's why they don't pay me the big bucks. I wish they'd pay me the big bucks because there'd be a lot I'd do differently, but it's why I'm here and why, they're in the position they are. So what are you going to do? But Iowa, they came out flat. They had no legs, and they were tired. And Richmond's a very good team out of the Atlantic 10 there, so a big win for them. Iowa State, I really wouldn't call that an upset. Iowa State's a very good team. I thought they flew a little bit under the radar, maybe a little bit in the Big 12 this year. They were able to get a few big wins, but LSU, man, that just with the issues that they've had with Will Wade being fired, and missing a few players and just having all that scandal and allegations around their program, I that was one that I picked. That wasn't an upset to me by any means. So that was a big win for the Cyclones last night. Michigan, that's another one that really wasn't an upset in my opinion. That was one that they were kind of expected to win, and I picked that one as well. Should they have been in the tournament? I don't know. That's up for debate. Personally, after that first round of the Big Ten tournament, I would not have expected them to be in, but the committee put them in as an 11 seed. Indiana had to go to the play-in game after Indiana won 2 big games in the Big Ten tournament. So there was a lot of questionable things going on with the selection committee this year, in my opinion. So, again, it's why they don't pay me the big bucks. But, some matchups that I'm looking forward to today, Gonzaga-Memphis. I feel like that'll be a good one. Memphis looked pretty good against Boise State. The Broncos made a run there in the second half, and they tried to cut it close, but Penny Hardaway and his team, they've really kicked it in the next gear here in about the second half of the season. They were 9-9, 9-8, something like that, to start the year, and they've really, really turned it on. And so that'll be a big game to watch there. Let's see here. What other Baylor UNC? That'll be a good one. St. Mary's UCLA. If UCLA plays like they did against Akron, St. Mary's will win that game by 15. And that'll be because Akron almost pulled off the upset against UCLA the other night. That was a game I was watching intently. John Gross and the Zips almost pulled it off. I wanted them to because John Gross is a good guy. I always liked him, except, obviously Illinois wasn't very good, but it's not here nor there. But Creighton and Kansas, that'll be a good one here tonight. But looks like Ryan Kalkbrenner will not be playing with his knee injury that he suffered late in the game on Thursday night against San Diego State. So that'll be a big one for them. You've got Richmond and Providence, Murray State and St. Peter's, Michigan, Tennessee. And that kind of rounds it out for the day. So, we're into the round of 32 games today, games tomorrow, and then we get ready next week for the Sweet 16 and on to the Elite 8. So, we're hot and heavy into the NCAA world, and some things that I'm looking forward to. And then Sunday, some games here. Obviously, Illinois and Houston. That tips off at a little after 11 o'clock here. Arizona, TCU with the big win over Seton Hall. So we'll see what we can get out of TCU against Arizona. Arizona only beat Wright State by about 17, and they gave up 70 points. Now, it's a 116 matchup. What are you going to, I'm sure Arizona was not quite up for that game, but Notre Dame, big win yesterday over Alabama, and they get Texas Tech. That was a matchup that I did not see Notre Dame winning, especially after that playing game. And that playing game was fantastic between Notre Dame and Rutgers. I really wanted the Big Ten and Rutgers pull that off, but man, what a game that was. Comes down to the wire. They get the bucket late, and then they roll Alabama. Unfortunately, it's not a football game because Notre Dame would have been very happy if that was a football game. But unfortunately, neither of those schools probably care about basketball all that much. But I'm sure the Notre Dame fans will take solace in that win a little bit over Alabama yesterday. Michigan State and Duke, a matchup I would just rather not watch because it's all about Tom Izzo. It's all about Coach K and just garbage for TV that they will eat up and just blast all over the place. I will probably not watch that one because the storyline there. Texas Purdue, that'll be a good one. Texas with the win over Virginia Tech yesterday. We'll have Miami and Auburn, Iowa State and Wisconsin, and Ohio State and Villanova. That'll be a good one between the Buckeyes and the Wildcats there. Villanova with a 20-point win over Delaware, and Ohio State with the 13-point win over Loyola Chicago. Good riddance. Goodbye, Sister Jean. Goodbye, Drew Valentine. Goodbye, Loyola Chicago. Get out of the Missouri Valley. Good riddance. See you later. But a lot of big games coming up this weekend over the round of 32. So we get ready for that today and tomorrow in the NCAA tournament. Hey, big news in MLB. Last night, it broke overnight, about 1 or 2 o'clock this morning. Carlos Correa signs with the Twins, a 3-year deal worth a little over $105 million. So good for him signing that big contract. I don't know. Oh, why would you want to go to Minnesota? I mean, give me one good reason, besides money, why you would want to go play for Minnesota instead of going back to Houston. I know that, the Yankees were somewhat interested, but now they're really hot and heavy in the Trevor Story, conditions. But why on earth would you want to go to Minnesota, a team that will they finish last in the AL Central? I think it'll be between them and maybe That's actually it's because you've got the Royals in that division. Minnesota might actually finish second in that division. I like to see where the Tigers are at this year. I think they'll be a little bit better. Um, you know, but I don't get why you would want to go to Minnesota because I feel like they've kind of traded a lot of you know a lot of things away. They're going to have to draft. They're going to bring up prospects. I don't know what their prospects look like, a whole lot of what their team looks like, but I feel like you'd be in a much better position to win if that's what was important in Houston. And, if the money's a little bit different, I guess it kind of depends on what you value more, winning or money. So, but nonetheless, Carlos Correa signs with the Twins. So that leaves this guy right here. Trevor Story is left out there. And the Cardinals really need to, in my opinion, need to at least make a pitch. It sounded like there was 4 teams that were still interested in the Trevor Story sweepstakes, and the Cardinals would be dumb not to at least make a pitch for a short-term deal, 1, 2, maybe 3 years, maybe on the long end there. You look at his numbers and you compare to what the Cardinals have, it's not that much better than Paul DeJong or Edmundo Sosa. Um, so you might be overpaying for it, which I think is why they're not so interested in everything and what he's bringing to the table. But man, I mean, how many times are you gonna watch Paul DeJong strike out looking? How many times are you gonna Edmundo Sosa was kind of someone that came onto the scene last year, so you really can kind of take your time and see what you have with him. He's not a for sure defender. Paul DeJong is, he could be a Gold Glover at shortstop, but I mean, the guy batted what 191 last year. I mean, that's terrible. And Trevor Story, his lowest batting average is like 264. I want to say. I mean, that's not off the top of my head. I mean, it's not that bad. And the guy had almost as many home runs as DeJong and Sosa had combined last year. So I think in a full season, you're going to get a lot out of him. Now, granted, he'll be away from Coors Field, so will his numbers be inflated a little bit, or will they, decline? People thought that with Arenado, and he seemed just fine this year or last year, and it looks to be just fine this year by the looks of it. But I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals would be dumb not to at least make a pitch at it and really go into it because defensively, he's just about the same as Paul DeJong. He's got a little bit more range, but not as sure-handed. DeJong doesn't have as much range. He's a little bit better with his hands, so it's kind of an even trade-off there. But I think offensively, you get better. But right now, I do understand that's not their area of concern. Their area of concern is especially around pitching. Now you won't have Jack Flaherty. You won't have Alex Reyes until the middle of May, late May. You kind of had the reports coming out yesterday that everyone's thinking Flaherty has a tear in his shoulder, but that tear is something that he's had for years and that he's pitched through. But he just received an injection. Is kind of what he wants to be reported, and he made that known yesterday that there's really nothing I wouldn't say to worry about, but he thinks it's kind of being blown out of proportion a little bit because this is the same tear that he had when he had his breakout year in 2019. And I really question if this is the time for the Cardinals to move on from Flaherty. In 2020, things were rough. Obviously, we had the shortened season, but he wasn't able to stay healthy in 2020. Last year didn't look great. Wasn't able to stay healthy. We missed him for most of the year. You had that one breakout year in 2019, and before that, you could see it building. But he's at the point to where he's 26 by the time his contract's up in 2024. He'll be 28, almost 29. At what point do you try and get return on investment on him. I mean, you've got to look at that, in my opinion, if you're in the Cardinals front office, because you really have, besides 2019, you haven't got a whole lot out of Jack Flaherty. And I think it would be in their best interest to cut ties one way or another. Because quite honestly, I don't think he wants to be there all that often either. I think when it comes to contract time in 2024, when he's up, he'll probably look at the Dodgers. He'll probably look at some of the California teams. It would not be surprising one bit to see him walk. And I think if the Cardinals see that coming, they've got to trade him and try and get a return there, because it would be worthwhile. You get quite a bit back. But you would have to think at some point that they have to cut ties. They've got to move on and figure out going forward, because their pitching staff, oh gosh, I mean, yeah, we signed Steven Matz, but that's about as mediocre of a signing as it gets. And that was back in November. And quite honestly, I forgot about it because of how average of a signing it was. We get that lefty, and now with Flaherty, we're back to square one a little bit, trying to find that ace. You get Dakota Hudson back this year from Tommy John. What are you going to get out of him? He'll probably maybe be on an innings limit, I would assume. Most guys are when they come back from Tommy John surgery. They're trying to move Jordan Hicks into a rotation, but what are you going to do there? So there's a lot of area of concern for the Cardinals right now, especially around their pitching staff. But other big signings: Chris Bryant signed with the Colorado Rockies, signed a 7-year deal to be in Colorado. I'm very, very surprised about that, because, man, if he thought St. Louis was boring, why on earth would he go play in Colorado? Because he will be bored playing for a mediocre and a terrible franchise for the next 7 years of his life. I mean, if St. Louis was really a concern for him and how boring it is, he will be bored out of his mind in Colorado. Maybe not, because he'll hit like 50 home runs a year, and his numbers will go up, but he's not going to win anything in Colorado, maybe besides some batting titles, and he definitely won the money market there. So good for Chris Bryant, but he will be in Colorado for the next few years. Last night, the Braves were able to pick up Kenley Jansen off the Dodgers after the Dodgers just took Freddie Freeman. And also reports are coming out that Freddie Freeman hadn't even made a decision yet by the time that the Braves had traded for Matt Olson, and that was kind of how Freddie Freeman found out that they were moving on, was that trade for Matt Olson. Now we'll see, hear from both sides, but Freeman and his dad were very disappointed. That's the way that they had to find out, and really goes to show kind of the relationship that maybe wasn't there with the front office for Freeman and the Braves. It reminds me a lot of the Albert situation in after the 2011 season with St. Louis. Obviously, Albert was the one to kind of break off that relationship, and he went his separate way to Anaheim to be with the Angels. And a guy that you expect to be at a team for your entire career, and it doesn't quite work out that way. It will be it'll be very different to see Freddie Freeman in Dodger blue, but he heads back to California where he's from, and it just makes the Dodgers that much more dangerous. But you really see the two different ways of the MLB and how to work a franchise. The Dodgers, they're spending money, they're going all out, they're trying to win a championship. And now with this 12-team playoff, you see teams like St. Louis, they're not spending money. The NL Central is going to be a bad division this year. The Pirates are going to be bad, of course. The Reds, they're, now in another rebuild. The Cubs are in a little bit of a rebuild. The Brewers, they're not quite the same team as they were last year. They've lost a few players of that team, but they'll be right around 85 or so. The Cardinals, they're not spending a whole lot of money. They're a lot of the same team as they were last year. They'll probably be somewhere around the 85, 90 win range, I would assume, depending on their pitching. I think the Cardinals, they're just going to be content with, that 85, 90 wins, maybe if they're able to get above 90, hit that 12-team playoff and see what happens. It's just there's really two different ways that you're seeing this go. The Yankees, they're going to spend more money after they signed Rizzo. Maybe they'll get Trevor Story. They made a big trade and got rid of Gary Sanchez, and it'll be, you see two different ways between small market and big market, and the Cardinals are definitely taking the route of the small market. Hey, just a little bit of time left here for you. We'll probably wrap up towards the bottom of the hour here, but we'll get into some NFL news and notes. It's kind of a slow time, except if you're Deshaun Watson. He was traded and accepted a trade to the Cleveland Browns after the Browns thought that they were out of the market. The drama with Baker Mayfield, and then he comes out, requests a trade, and then Cleveland denies it. And Baker says that, relationship's broken off and whatnot. Deshaun Watson thought he had his teams down to Carolina, New Orleans, and Atlanta, I believe, were about the last three. And all of a sudden does a 180, and he's right back in the mix, and he's sent to Cleveland. So Cleveland will be a very, very good team, I think, now with Watson. And it makes that AFC North division that much better and that much scarier, in my opinion, as a Baltimore fan. You see that, with Nick Chubb, with Kareem Hunt, with now Amari Cooper in their defense. The Browns are going to be a team to watch out for this year. Obviously, we'll see how that year off affected Watson in his play. But, when he's at his best, watch out, especially if you put him around a good defense and a good franchise. But Cleveland is also where quarterbacks go to die. So who knows what we'll get out of Watson? Will his career be completely over now that he's in Cleveland? We'll see. But you look at the quarterbacks within the division. You've got Lamar Jackson, an MVP, a guy that can take his team to playoffs. Obviously, the Ravens missed it last year, a lot of injuries. I could go into a full episode just within the Baltimore Ravens injuries and last season, but I'll spare you that. Joe Burrow, obviously, Super Bowl right there, runner-ups. They're going to be back. They're going to be good. They've improved their offensive line throughout the offseason, so they'll be interesting. And now you get Deshaun Watson with Cleveland, their defense, and a good receiving core there. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, they went out and signed Mitchell Trubisky. As you look at the four quarterbacks in the AFC North, one of those things is not like the others. Obviously Trubisky did not have, had one shining moment in that year that the Bears lost in that first round of the playoffs to the Eagles. Will we see a different Trubisky than what we did in Chicago? I hope not. I hope he looks the exact same, because it'd make my life a lot better. But, Deshaun Watson with the trade there to Cleveland, that is a big, big get for the Browns. And if you're a Browns fan, obviously, people are going to have differing opinions on the whole Watson situation, and I won't get into that because it's not worth my time. And I'm not trying to ruin my career either one way or the other. So, as a football fan, you got to take it, I guess, for what it is. There's a lot of people that are unhappy, but there's nothing that I'm going to do about it. Nothing any of us can do about it. So, but it makes the Browns a lot better of a football team, and much more dangerous heading into next season. Hey, let's look at the weekend slate for you. As I got into it earlier, a lot of big games going on in the NCAA tournaments. Our Saturday games today, we've got that's yesterday. North Carolina and Baylor. That's our first game today at 11:10 Central Time. You've got Creighton and Kansas with the second game of the day, 1:40. 4:15, Michigan at Tennessee, Richmond at Providence. They tip off at 5:10. St. Mary's and UCLA, 6:10. 6:45, St. Peter's and Murray State. 7:40, New Mexico State and Arkansas, and 8:40 tonight, Memphis and Gonzaga. Probably two games I'm looking for most today is that Michigan-Tennessee game. I want to see how Tennessee kind of matches up. I think they'll match up well against Michigan, and Tennessee is a sleeper, in my opinion, for a team to make a run to the Final Four. I really think that they would be able to knock off Arizona as they already have this year. And then the other game I'm looking forward is Memphis and Gonzaga. Gonzaga had a little bit of a scare in that first round game, and they were able to sneak by. They had a 20-point win, so it really got a hand there late in the second half. But Memphis, I think, will provide a good challenge for Gonzaga, and that'll be a game to watch. And then tomorrow in the NCAA realm, Houston and Illinois, first game of the day at 11:10. Ohio State at Villanova, that's at 1:40. Michigan State and Duke, 4:15. Iowa State and Wisconsin at 5:10. Notre Dame, Texas Tech at 6:10. Miami, Auburn, 6:45. Texas, Purdue, 7:40. In the late game, TCU and Arizona at 8:40. So that'll round out the NCAA realm for you. Lots of baseball yesterday. Cardinals had their first spring training game. First 2 days of spring training games are underway. Cardinals had the 4-2 victory yesterday. Do they play today? I do not know. They are not on the schedule today. They are on the schedule on Sunday. So spring training baseball will be back. It is back, and the regular season kicks off April 7th as opening day. And I could not be more excited to get back to the ballpark and finally, experience and enjoy a good baseball season. But hey, that'll do it for me. That's my time here on this Saturday morning for you on the Colten Kahler Show. I appreciate you tuning in, appreciate your comments, and we'll see you next week here back on the Sports 2.0 Network for the Colten Kahler Show. Until Saturday, so long.